I recently got access to a 3D printer, and there's so many things I want to make. The only problem is, I don't know how. The plan is simple. I will attempt in 24 not necessarily subsequent hours time to recreate these 4 objects I found on Thingiverse. A cable holder, a headphone stand, a vase, and a wrench. They should all require a bit of different techniques and approaches, so if I were to master them all, I think I'm ready to create something of my own. First things first, we need a software. And it seems like people recommend Fusion 360. Let's maybe watch some tutorials in the meantime. In general, I'm not a big fan of watching tutorials, cause I know I learn so much faster when I get my hands dirty. But in some cases, they do have their place, and learning the button layout and general workflow of a completely foreign software is one of those cases. Here's the overview. You move around by holding down the middle mouse button, and rotate by adding shift. The basic workflow is you create a 2-dimensional sketch, which you then extrude out to a 3-dimensional object using one of multiple functions. Then you could either manipulate that 3D object further using some other functions, or create another 2D sketch on top of the object and extrude that out, and so on. It's an additive process of creating complex objects using very simple functions and geometry, and that's really all you need to know to get started. Okay, we got a few different menus up here. From what I've seen, we only really need to worry about the first one. Create a sketch, and that's what we're gonna start with, and then we have these other tools to use. We can draw some different things here. Rectangle, 100 by 50 maybe. We're gonna have to place it somewhere. And we have all these tools to constrain the sketch in different ways. Let's say we want to put it in the middle. How do we do that? A line horizontal, can you find the middle point? No, symmetry. Those two around this. Yay! Click on one side and the other, and then the symmetry line in the middle. And now the lines are black, so now we're done. Let's try something harder. I wanna just create my initials. Can we use the line tool to make a curve as well? I wonder. Oh yeah, we can. Down, and then what? We can see it already has applied some constraints of its own. It's made these lines parallel, for example. I didn't tell it to do it. It's just pretty smart. And that's this one, yeah. So we can do the same for the other side. So what if we were to define this angle then? Sure, 35 degrees. I guess I could define like this angle to be... What? Over constrained. This should not be 90 degrees. I don't know who put that there. Let's try again. I wonder if you can do math in this window. 35 divided by 2. Okay, it's more complicated. 90 minus 35 divided by 2. No, that's even worse. 90 minus 35 divided by 2. It looks a bit wacky still, but I think it's correct. Collinear. If I choose this line and then this line. Yeah. 85. Nice! That's an A constraint. That took a while. You need to draw using maths. It's really weird anyway. ...30 minutes to spell out 2 letters. I think we're ready to do some actual work. Now, starting with a cable holder. I've already played around a bit in Fusion 360, and what I realized is that before you even start to do your first sketch, you should have a pretty good idea of what you want to do. So when you look at this cable holder, what do you see? There's no one right answer, but what I see is a rectangular block with rounded edges and holes in it. So that's what I'm gonna make. A rectangle is easy. You just make a sketch and extrude it. Rounding the edges is also easy. There's a simple function for it called fillet. For the cable holes, I made a sketch on the block face, which was a circle and a rectangle combined, and used the extrude function to cut it out. Then I repeated it 6 more times, using the rectangular pattern function. And for the 2 countersunk screw holes, I used the function made for that very purpose. And boom, 3 minutes, done. Well, if you knew what you were doing maybe, but I probably sat with this for a good hour or so just trying to figure out why the functions didn't do what I wanted them to do. But if I was to do it again, yeah, it'd probably go a lot faster. Next up, the headphone stand. Now this is an object that might seem pretty simple at first, but when you look at it for a while, you'll realize that no matter how you twist and turn it, you can't really divide it into rectangles and cylinders. So then what do? Well, I found this really great function called loft, which I think is the simplest way to make a design like this. If you draw 2 or more sketches in 3D space, then this function basically fills in the space between them. Since the stand has a symmetry line in the middle, I decided to only do one side of it and then mirror it. First creating the general shape using loft, then extruding some holes and details and rounding it out with some fillets. Sounds simple enough. Well, it wasn't. There's a golden rule in CAD that goes, use the correct constraints or suffer a tremendous amount of pain. When you start your project, you're all confident, like, I've measured everything, I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna be quick and easy, so you just rush through it, fixing your sketches without thinking twice, and halfway through you realize, oh, I put the wrong dimensions on the first sketch, so I gotta go back and change it, and so you do that, and then the whole project doesn't compile anymore, the sketches are offset from the objects, the cutouts have moved to places they're not supposed to be, and the chamfering doesn't compute, and it's just a mess, and you're already 12 bodies and 16 sketches deep, and you have no idea what's causing the problem. You think I'm rambling on about this for too long? Well, that's how it feels. The pain never ends. What you're supposed to do is to think really hard about every single thing you do, right from the very first line in the very first sketch. Where do I place it? How is it rotated? What is other things in relation to it? It might take 3 times as long to do the sketch, but you're gonna be thankful for it when everything just works. And for this project specifically, I probably had to go back and forth like at least 10 times just to try to find out what was causing the errors. Even right now there's some kind of problem with one of the sketches and I don't know what it is, but it still works, so I'm just running with it. Thirdly, we have this crazy looking vase. I have to admit that when I picked this one, I had no clue how I was even theoretically supposed to do this. I knew it had to be done cylindrically symmetrical in some sort of parametric way. Try saying that 5 times fast. What I mean is, there's no way the artist did all of those details by hand. There has to be some sort of function that automates it. And so that's what I was looking for. I think the skill of boiling down complex, seemingly impossible geometries to doable concepts is central to develop if you want to get good at 3D design. What I do when faced with an overwhelming problem in general is to break it down into the smallest, simplest pieces. So that's what I'm gonna do here too. Start by ignoring that it's hollow. I found this great function called shell that does this for you automatically. Then take away the crazy bendy grid pattern as well, and it's just a simple smooth vase. The easiest thing you can make with the evolve function. So let's start there. Then look at the pattern. What is it exactly? It's this twisting, extruding line that repeats all the way around the vase, that is then overlaid by a mirrored version of itself, and then the same thing has been done again with another pattern further towards the center. I found this function called sweep that lets you extrude a sketch in the shape of any kind of crazy bendy path you choose, which seemed absolutely perfect for the application. The only problem was I didn't know how to make the line follow the edge of the vase, and there's probably a much better way to do this, but I'm still kind of proud I figured this out myself. All you have to do is draw the shape on an origin plane and use the split body function to cut the object in half all the way through, and then where the 2 parts of the body meet, that's where you have your line. And as a bonus, you also get the mirrored line on the other side, which we want as well. Then you just gotta draw the cross-section you want on the XY plane, apply the sweep function, and then the cylindrical pattern, and you're done. I felt like it was enough with one layer of the pattern, so I ignored the other one. I didn't really like the top and bottom though, so I added a slightly thicker, smooth vase on top to make them circular. And in the end, when I was trying to make it hollow, I didn't actually get the shell function to work, because the geometry was too complicated. There's probably a dozen workarounds to this, but what I did was duplicate the previous smooth vase and shrink it by 1.5 millimeters, and then cut it out of the body. All in all, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Lastly, I wanted to do something functional, with multiple parts working together. And this is where my basic learn-as-you-go philosophy started to fail me a bit. What made this hard was making everything fit together. With only 3 simple parts, it's about as easy of an assembly as you can make, but it was a lot of variables to try to keep in your head, and it was so much jumping back and forth between the different projects that it was simply not working. I was making too many mistakes, and I spent an unreasonable amount of time just not doing anything at all. The more complex designs you make, the more important proper structure and workflow is gonna be. And these are things that may not be super easy to learn just by intuition. One example of something that would have been really nice if I knew before is parameters. I kept looking for something like this in the menu, but I didn't find it until I googled it afterwards. It's a way to let you control multiple variables using a single number. Let's say you want to change some metrics of the worm gear. If it's parameterized correctly, the cutout in the body and the teeth of the jaw would change accordingly. Especially in larger projects, that's gonna save you a huge amount of time and make things so much simpler. But in the end, I think I made something that might work, maybe. So that's it then. I think I made it. To be honest, I kinda lost track of time at the end, but it was fun. Opening a CAD software for the first time can be daunting. All the buttons and functions, and you don't even know how to move around with the mouse yet. But just give it a try. Stick around for only 30 minutes, and I promise it's gonna feel a lot better. You don't need to know all the advanced features and techniques to do some really amazing things. You can get really far on only 2D sketches and simple extrusions. Go out and have some fun. That's at least what I'm gonna do. Anyway, Until next time, see ya. Peace.